Hey guys, Drifter here. Welcome to World War II In Depth. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Karabin sniper rifle, which is one of the most niche weapons in the game, and admittedly, it is not a very popular weapon in the game. Semi-automatic sniper rifles in Call of Duty games just don't tend to be popular, but there are some very nice uses for this weapon. Let's jump straight into the stats. It has a base damage of 80, so if you shoot a person anywhere in the body or even in the head, before multipliers, the base damage is 80. That's a little bit lower than other sniper rifles in Call of Duty games, but it's still a colossal amount of damage. But it is a sniper rifle, so it has special body and head multipliers. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have very many. It will one-shot kill people to the head and to the neck, and that's it. Chest, upper chest, arms, shoulders, legs, waist, anything else, no one-shot kills. In core modes, the way to get one-shot kills is only to the head or neck, and just in case you're curious, the headshot raw damage is 1.5x. Given the relatively high base damage and the high penetration value, which we'll talk about later, that means that it will probably headshot people through walls quite well too. Rate of fire is 234 rounds per minute, and rapid fire will take it up to 252 rounds per minute, which is by far the fastest in the class, but this is the sniper rifle class we're talking about. It's not super fast. This is going to be slightly slower than most of the other designated marksman rifles in the game, like the Gewehr, the M1A1, or the M1 Garand. And unfortunately, in terms of damage and shots to kill, this one is going to be by far the worst. You're going to get the most hit markers, the least amount of one-shot kills, and the lowest overall damage profile, even though the base damage is quite high. Case in point, it's best to mix and match this weapon. It's really important to run a secondary weapon, or to scavenge a secondary weapon, or to use it in a niche situation, which is, as you can see, I'm using the PPSH as much as I can, but swapping to the Karabin when I really need a DMR. This is one of the weapons where the variants can make a difference. Some of the variants do have slightly different optic shapes or scopes. They have different outlines, different profiles. Some people find them easier to aim with. Some people find them harder to aim with. I wouldn't say that any of them are really awesome or overpowered or unfair, but as you unlock other variants, you may notice that your base scopes are somewhat different. Personally, the ACOG sight is greatly preferred so that the Karabin can be treated as a DMR. I truly do not like using this weapon as a sniper rifle and just going for headshots and trying to get one-shot kills. I find that to be too hard and too punishing when I can just use the Kar 98. However, when I run an ACOG sight on it, it's a different functioning M1 Garand. It doesn't shoot as fast as the M1 Garand or have some of the nice handling attributes, but it does two-shot at any range, and the base damage is very high, so I get a lot of lucky one-shots on people that are injured, and I can wallbang with it very, very easily. Handling property-wise, it has a 350 millisecond aim-down sights time, which isn't terrible, but it's definitely not going to be competitive with an assault rifle, and the sprint-out time, however, is pretty rough at 450 milliseconds, so if somebody catches you running around, you have almost a half-second delay before you can react and shoot them and get a bullet out of your gun. Sprint-out times in Call of Duty World War II in general do tend to be quite long. HIPFIRE is very poor on this gun. It's a sniper rifle. It's just got enormous HIPFIRE spread, so that's pretty standard. And the recoil is low, but it does shake a bit if you spam really hard. If you give just a little bit of delay between your shots, it'll almost completely recenter. But if you go on full maximum rate of fire spam mode, you might get a little bit of shake there. And one thing that I found interesting on this gun is that crouching or proning reduces your recoil. It's not a super high recoil gun, so it's not a ton, but it is noticeable. For example, here's a quick little test on USS Texas. I'm just going to go ahead and aim at this blank wall because it'll record the hit scans of my shots. That's me standing up. We're going to go ahead and reload, scoot over just a little bit, crouch down, spam 10 more shots at the wall. Yes, the very most exciting part of In Depth. And now we're going to go ahead and prone out and shoot the exact same wall, and we're going to compare the patterns. You will notice that there is a huge difference between standing and crouched, and not very much difference between crouched and prone. And since prone is a little bit inconvenient and it blocks your shots a lot of times, my overall recommendation for this gun is that if you crouch with it, it will be easier to use in general. Another fun fact, I'm not going to put the text on the screen because it's pretty standard for all weapons of this class, is that it has the highest penetration value in the game so that you can wallbang with it very, very easily. And with FMJ, it goes into an even higher tier than that. So all the walls in the game kind of turn into paper. So if you really want to wallbang people, if you're playing war mode and you know where they're going to be camping, it's fantastic for that purpose. Magazine size is a little bit on the small side at 10. That's more in line with most of the DMRs in the game, and you run extended mags, it does go up to 15. I do think that extended mags are helpful to avoid long reload downtimes. The weapon is very niche in itself. It's got a lot of disadvantages. You don't want to be down reloading very much, and even if your accuracy is very high, you can only kill a few people with one mag, so I really like extended mags on this gun. I think I'm just an extended mag addict when it comes to Call of Duty World War II, but I would recommend them. Even though I'm talking about reloading downtime, the reload time is not bad at 1.9 seconds. For sniper rifles, that's pretty top tier, and that's more or less in line with the other DMRs, maybe slightly slower. If you're running Hustle, that's 1.23 seconds, which is better, but I'm going to end up not recommending Hustle. As for my thoughts on the Karabin, is it good? Is it useful? Is it straight trash like the community would probably want to say? I'm going to say it's a very specialized weapon. It can be really powerful in a few situations, but it's not a go-to gun. It's fantastic in hardcore because it one-shots all over the place and the recoil's low and it's a true sniper rifle, so you can do a lot of fun things with it. On Operation Neptune, you can wallbang people through those machine gun turrets super easily and punish them for being alive. It's not terrible on the defending end either, as long as you're running Lookout. And depending on the map and depending on the mode, it can be a very good DMR alternative, especially if you want a very high damage DMR that can wallbang. If you really just want more damage on your M1 Garand, you can look into the Karabin, and it's a very acceptable solution to that problem. I personally think that this pairs best with infantry or armored and not necessarily with mountain, because I'm very rarely holding my breath or take advantage of the true sniper abilities, and I would rather have either more attachments or resistance to anybody that's going to knock me out of my little camping hole. And there is a very good argument for running riflemen so that you can have two weapons, probably a PPSH or a shotgun, and you can swap really fast. But I was never very big into those perks. I would rather just kill somebody and take whatever gun they use. Because I do in depth and I play with all the guns, I can use almost any gun with very good proficiency. So as long as I can kill one person, I get a secondary weapon that I steal. Some people don't like that. Some people want a very specific secondary weapon, so rifleman is a very valid perk. However, I prefer running this with infantry and lookout. I really like being able to use the ACOG sight, but I also like being able to see red names at super long distances, especially in war mode when I'm defending. It's incredibly helpful. Extended mags so that my magazine count is a little bit higher and I don't have to reload as much. FMJ so that I'm just a wall banging machine. And finally rapid fire so I can spam just a little bit faster. It's not the most useful attachment, but it does help a little bit. As far as my recommendation for competitive, I just wouldn't use this gun in competitive at all. If you use this gun in competitive, you're going to have a very bad time. It can be really great in war mode, just not in competitive. Guys, that's all for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something useful. We're moving ahead with the rest of the sniper rifles, the ones you're probably more interested in, the Lee Enfield, the 1903, and the Kar 98 next. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out. If you want all the weapon stats for World War II in your pocket to go, then look no further than the Ultimate Utility app by Brass Monkey. It's available on iOS and Android. There are links in the description, or you can just search for it in the App Store.